And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
"2009 is the beginning of the Griffin series. Here's the first 5. We'll see some more produced this year and several in the years to come. These games are republishing of older games like Money and For Sale and a few of the other ones. And there's also brand new games like Roll Through the Ages. Today, we're going to be looking at the first game in the series, Money. Money is basically a deck of cards, and on the front of the cards shows a variety of denominations of money, ranging from different countries. Unfortunately, they didn't see fit to include Korean money, but, well, what do you do? If you take a closer look at the money itself, you'll notice that it's different than the actual money in that country. There are some changes, so obviously forgeries are not happening. In fact, some of it's kind of silly, especially when you see, for example, on the pound note there is King Reiner Knizia, who's the designer of the game. Not to mention that the money comes in several different denominations, 10, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then there's also several cards that have coins on them. And these cards just count as a coin. They're always worth 10. And then each player starts the game with a bluffing card. It's pretty simple, really. At the beginning of the game, each player is dealt 6 cards plus the bluffing card, so they have 7 cards in their hand. The deck is placed in a little table, and next to it 4 cards are turned face up. These are cards that players will be bidding for. Players then can take any number of cards from their hand and place them face down in front of themselves. This is done simultaneously, so you take some cards and place them face down in front of you. You can use the bluffing card if you want. These cards are simultaneously turned over, and all bluffing cards are removed. If a player has played only a bluffing card, they're finished for this round. Otherwise, the player who has played the highest total in the numbers that are played in the cards in front of them gets to go first. If there's a tie, there's a small serial number on each card that the higher number of that would show who breaks the tie. When a player is the highest number, they have a few choices. First of all, if they don't like any of their options, they can take the cards they played and put them back in their hand. Or they can take the card that they played or the cards that they played and exchange it with one of these groups here, taking all these cards and placing them in their hand. Or if they see another group of cards that an opponent has played, let's say, for example, an opponent has played $3 cards and I really wanted these cards, I could take those cards and give him my bid, and then he would be able to have the next highest bid. Now, this is not quite accurate because you would be able to play a 20 and take this person's bid, but there are some instances where you might want to take someone else's bid. When you take someone else's bid, or if you take cards in the middle, the cards that you bid are put in their place, and other players can then take them. Obviously, whoever goes first, the highest number, has the best advantage, but you're giving up the best or the most cards to do so. At the end of the round, there's only a few cards in the middle, and the cards are added to those from the draw pile to bring them up to 4 cards each. The next round begins, exact same thing. You continue until the cards in the middle draw pile are exhausted. At that point, you play out the round, and then everyone shows their cards to see who's won the game. When scoring, players are going to look at each of the cards in their hand and take them by virtue of the suit that they are. So all the cards in the same suit will score for that suit. If you have less than 100 points, you score nothing. So for example, here I have a 20, a 30, and a 30. That's 80. That's less than 100, scores nothing. So that would get me no points at all. If I happen to go over 100, for example, I have 50 here and 40 and 30. In this instance, I have 110. I subtract 100 from it, and this is worth 10 points to me. Not very much. Coins are always worth 10 points. So here I have 20 points. If I'm really lucky and I get a triplet, 3 of the same kind, there's 3 20s and 3 30s in each set, that will give me an extra bonus of 100 points. If I go over 200, here's a 30, another 30, a 40, a 50, and a 60, which brings me up to 60, 60, 120, 170, 210 points. That's over 200 points, so I get the full 210 points. Once you reach 200, you get all your points. So obviously, that's what you're trying to do. And if you're lucky enough to get the entire set, there's 9 cards in a set, a 60, 50, 40, 3 30s, and 3 20s, it's worth 500 points. Because not only do you get the full points for the set, but you also get 2 triplets, 3 30s, and 3 20s. And so a full set here is 500 points. Whoever has the most points is the winner. However, you can play multiple rounds and add the points to see who wins the whole game overall. The best word that I can use for money is intriguing. You never really know what to bid. You look at the cards that are out there and you'll say, well, there's 4 cards of the same set. I really want them, so I'm going to bid a lot of cards. But when you bid a lot of cards, you're giving other players a chance to take a really good set for themselves of all the cards that you bid, even if they're a whole mixture of other cards. And even near the end of the game, these 30s and 20s, I'm really anxious to throw them away if they're not of the sets I'm trying to complete. But if I just throw a 30 out there willy-nilly, that might be the 30 that completes someone's triplet, giving them an extra 100 points. And that can really throw your game off. And before, I've thrown cards away deliberately that I needed 30s and 20s, having most of the set, just so that someone else would eventually throw them back, thinking they were worthless, and I could then complete my set. So there's a little bit of take that in the game. The coins themselves, you look at them and see that they're worth 10 points no matter what. And so at the end of the game, they're worth 10 points. Is that worth it? Or should you use them in bidding during the game, trying to get the cards that could potentially be worth a lot more? There is a few drawbacks in this. If you're playing with someone who has really not a clue what's going on, maybe they're too young to play the game or just really not with the game, they can really mess things up. This is one game where one person can really blow things out of proportion by bidding way too high on a set of cards, taking the cards that they really want, but giving the second highest bidder this immensely great opportunity by taking this huge amount of cards. And for example, we played with my daughter, who's only 8, and the box says 10 and older, but I wanted to try it out, and she just kept constantly giving good cards to the second highest bidder, which can throw the game off. And I don't mind that so much in a fairly friendly game, which money is, but if you're really trying to play competitively, stupid play by one person can mess things up. I'm not saying my daughter played stupidly, but she didn't really understand the whole look towards the future, try and get the cards, don't give good cards to other people. And so that can be frustrating to some people. I like the graphics. I like all the different money cards, and they're very easy to read and see. All of them look different. The game plays from 3 to 5 players, takes about 20 minutes to play. It's not very long of a game. And as I said before, my word for this game would be intriguing, because I look at it and say, how can I get more points? What am I trying to get? Is one complete set 500 points? Is that going to be good enough to really put me in a position to win the game? And if it is, what other cards am I giving up to other players? In my first game, I tried to get a mixture of sets. I lost. In the second game, I tried to get one complete set and then as many cards of another set, and I still lost. And it's interesting on just how you're using the cards that you want to bid on other cards. It's an older game, and I look forward to seeing more of these subtleties of strategy in the game in the future, and I'm glad they've reprinted it. Good first game for the Griffin line.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.